Okay, I'm assuming there's sound now. Okay, sound is good on Facebook. Well, as you can see, again, this is the first day that I've tried to broadcast on both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Okay, so YouTube people, please let me know now. Let me know soon if in fact we have sound. I believe we do. Yeah, it's registering. Okay, Facebook is sound okay. The difference is now we're not operating on a microphone. We're using ambient microphone, which the quality is not that good. And David made a comment about fur. Well, I'm doing fur my way. Maybe it's the same as the way you do it. I don't know. But it's going to be layers and layers and layers and layers. And we are just in early stages. Sound on YouTube? Yeah, okay. I am so sorry, and that's very irritating, as I said. I will work it out. I'm sorry for the anxiety I'm causing in the meantime. Okay, I'm going to do some dark details on this and then move on to another painting. Yahoo! My technique in these particular portraits, I call them fast oil portraits, is the technique that's what I call this approach. Is it's similar to my normal technique in that most of the underpainting is transparent colors and just a little bit of opaque, and of course that right there was translucent, so it's, if you will, a temporary break in the transparency, but that will be oh, what a darling puppy. Try this trick again. I don't know if it'll still work. The trick being using a paper stub to lift paint off. Oh yeah, good, it is working. To lift paint off the canvas again, because even though I did this part of the painting I did a couple hours ago, the underneath layers, it's oil, so of course it's still tacky. It's not dry. So I this is the first time I've ever used this a tortillon or tortillon, I don't know which, tortillon, rolled up piece of paper used normally for pencil and charcoal as a blending stub. But I dipped it the end in Gamsol, and I'm finding it really helpful for lifting out details. There. Now let's do whoops. My Facebook monitor quit for some reason. Some afternoon sun coming in through the window here. Yes, quite. Let's fix that. Here in North Carolina, we have these things called blinds. There. Imagine that. That's a little better. I'm sitting down at the moment on a tall-ish stool. I prefer to paint standing up until one's legs or feet get so sore that it becomes uncomfortable. Then I prefer painting sitting down. So at the moment, I will enjoy having this little painting on my website in my portrait page. At the moment, I think I only have one pet portrait on my page. It'd be nice, fun to have another one. It's really too early to be doing whiskers, but these are preliminary whiskers. These are not the finished ones. You'll see in a second what I mean by that. Well, hello, Catherine Bunn. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you. All right, so here's what I meant by preliminary. Very much the way I paint trees, you know, layer by layer by layer by layer. Don't try to execute the details like that all at once. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Static, okay. Preliminary whiskers, yes, Barbara. Whoops. Technology does some really weird things. So in case anybody wonders, how am I broadcasting? Besides not very well, besides that, how am I broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook at the same time? The answer is 2 cameras, 2 controller phones, 2 smartphones, and 2 monitors, and 1 microphone. Evidently that system is what was not working, and I don't know why, because it seems to me it should be working perfectly, but be that as it may. Got some bugs to work out there. Before I leave this dog, I want to get this red-orange blush inside this ear up here. Yeah, and over here as well. Once again, this is Chewy, and he still is in need of a lot of work, but that's precisely what he's going to get, is a lot of work in the next hours. Let's move on to the next one. I have another baby, Kim Coley, a baby and a bride. Let's do this baby right here, the one that's already up on the easel, and now I'm ready to stand again. My feet have had a little break. This is a brother. By the way, just for what it's worth, I am not offering. Let me be clear. I don't want to confuse people. I am not doing portraits this size for $350. Okay, I mean, I'm generous, but not that. That's ridiculous. Okay, so this is costing. My client is paying a little more than that for a paint portrait this size. I'm sure you can understand. So I'm seeing this with pretty fresh eyes again, because I've looked at a whole bunch of other portraits since I last looked at this one. I'm assuming that makes sense to you, right? I'm having to restart my Facebook monitor over here. There we go. Looks like it's going to work. There we go. Oh, you know what? His face is bigger on this side, so. Let me tell you about some of the, let me just stutter myself into a cul-de-sac. I'm starting out this process with a minimum of what I call cheating. Minimum of cheating. No grid, no tracing, no projecting, no measuring, just look and draw. The old-fashioned, classic, traditional, what people think all artists do all the time. I'm doing that because that's what makes me get smarter. That's what makes me get better at it. As I progress, now the one cheat that I am doing is toggling through 5 different portraits during the same session. Okay, so that's the extent of my cheat, if you will, and that's not doesn't qualify as a cheat. That's just a way to get over the syndrome called portrait blindness. But as I proceed, as I progress with all 5 portraits, I will employ more and more and more, I need this to be a little bit lower, forgive me. I will employ, as necessary, more and more drastic cheating methods. Now, hopefully, I want it to get very drastic. Somebody asked at the end of my last broadcast, and I missed it, what about turning the painting upside down? That's a cheat for sure. And that's a cheat because if you're painting a live model, you can't turn the live model upside down. They usually protest. That's all the blood runs to their head. But so that is a cheat, but it's a good one. It's okay. And of course, I'm working from a photograph, and absolutely, yes, I can certainly do that. Again, that's considered a cheat. I've already given my speech one time today about cheating, and if you're new to my channel, you're saying, it's not cheating. No, save it, save your breath. We've had this conversation ad nauseum on my YouTube channel over the years. And of course I'm using alarmist language in a sense, just for fun, just to make the point. Okay, so here's the drill. All cheating is legal. Go ahead, do it. Absolutely. Do it all you want. Do it. It's legal. Most of the great masters through history, with the glaring exception of Rembrandt, cheated. Camera obscura and so forth. Here's the big but, and it's a big one. The more you cheat, the more your drawing skills deteriorate. There. And if you don't want drawing skills, then go ahead and knock yourself out. Now, a whole bunch of other skills can increase, texture, color, light, values, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of other things that can continue to get better. But your ability to actually just, what I'm trying to do here, actually, again, deteriorates. So, if you don't care about deteriorating skills, then cheat all you want. But I myself do care about deteriorating skills. I don't like that idea. So, I don't want to, quote unquote, cheat. So my solution is to do exactly what you see me doing here, which is try to do it the old-fashioned way. In other words, build your muscles, build your observational skills. Build them. It's like a muscle. It'll grow, but you have to exercise it. And all exercise hurts, including this one. It's just mental energy. Dang, it'd be a lot easier just to cheat. Okay? So, but the client, even though I'm not being paid much, I'm being paid for these paintings. The client, none of these clients want a painting that's not a dead ringer. They're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna be happy if the painting doesn't look exactly like them, right? All right. So therefore, I will cheat as much as I need to get the job done. And always trying to, again, work out my brain, because I do not like the idea of my skills deteriorating. You can do that if you want to. But it's not something I want to do. I want to be able to draw better and better and better. At the same time, I have to, finish these paintings. Again, I'm not being paid a lot. I need to finish them in a timely manner. So I will, as I proceed, I will, quote unquote, cheat little by little by little. I'll cheat more and more if I need to. Now, there might be some portrait that I just knock it out of the park, and I don't need to cheat at all. I just accomplish the whole thing, capture a perfect likeness, just by looking. And I would like to be able to do that. I wish I were better at it. Every time I do a portrait, I'm trying to get better at it. I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. The best creatures I've ever seen, human creatures, I've ever seen in my life for this skill that I'm describing. The ability to look and copy is the old Chinese men. I'm not sure they all have to be old, but the last time I was in Manhattan, the old Chinese men sprinkled across downtown New York, Manhattan, on the sidewalk. This was 8 or 9 years ago now. I think that I was in Manhattan for a week, and I kept running into, passing these guys. We've all seen people that do this at the fair or at festivals or whatever, different kind of fundraisers and things like that, where they try to purport to draw your portrait while you wait. And if you're like me, most of the time you go, oh yeah, not bad. Something's wrong with the mouth, head, ears, nose, mouth, eyes, not bad. That's the way I feel. That's the way I feel about my own when I try to do that. But these guys, they were Asian and they were older and they were freaking cameras. I finally stopped and said, pardon me, do you speak English? And that's where I learned that they were Chinese. I think it's since then I've learned that, I don't know. I know it's not politically correct to attribute even good things to people, to what's the word, to characterize, but that's that in my firm opinion is society gone tilt, when you can't even admit that a particular ethnicity is good at something. Come on, if you can't admit that Kenyans are disproportionately, outrageously good distance runners, then you're a nut. And if you can't admit that, which of course politically speaking if you can't admit that Jamaicans are outrageously outrepresented, they outrepresent everybody else in sprinting, then you're just an idiot. But anyway, along the same lines, in my opinion, both the Chinese and the Russians seem to be heavily overrepresented in the top echelons of art around the world. Check it out if you've never noticed, just in case you've never noticed. I'm willing to be wrong. But I'm myself a fairly half-baked, decent artist, and I find myself groveling at the feet of Chinese artists way more often than I would like. In my case, of course, and I hope it's with you as well, when I find somebody who's better than me, it just puts fire in my bones. It just increases my drive. Like, oh man, I need to find out, what do they know? Clearly they know something I don't know. Clearly they are tapping into something I have not yet tapped into, and that it's like an irritation in me that I want to find out what it is. Okay, I'm probably here right now, I'll tell you, I'm probably getting too detailed. I'm getting lost in the woods here. It's not time for this kind of detail. I'm having too much fun copying features when in fact the features may actually be in the wrong location. Barbara, you've seen that too? Okay, David's helping me again. I am so humble. We missed you for a while there, David. There were a couple times when I was saying, man, I'm being arrogant and David's not here to give me a hard time. So. Okay, and David said probably something right. The arm is too much forward and big. The right arm. This one here. Too forward and big. Let me look at it. Or do you mean this one? They both are. A little bit wide. Somebody mentioned that. I think Uncle 60 or somebody mentioned that at the end of one of the early broadcasts. That arm looked a little bit too muscly. I think it was that arm. Uncle, a lot of you probably not watching right now. Now, I don't know if these marks will come off. Let's see. Oh yeah, if I rub them kind of hard. This was done several hours ago with liquid, so it's pretty set. Yeah, that's not going to come out much. I'm going to abandon the details for a minute here. Pick up some bigger brushes. Let's just do some flesh tone. Everyone at our Painters Forum group, we get together second Tuesday of every month. If anybody local here, any local artists here, you're more than welcome to join us. Send me an email and I'll give you the details. We typically anywhere from 10 to 20 people in attendance, something like that, and usually there are just enough new people there that we have to go around and do names. And I am of the opinion that if you just go around and everybody says their name, then nobody really hears anybody. Nobody remembers any names because it's too fast. So we have to come up with a question to go along with the last week we said who would you like to paint like? Dead or living artist? Oh, I was about to paint his legs flesh tone and discovered he has a white sock. So much for that. All right, I see now there's something wrong with his head. Again, I don't need to get it all perfect right now. You see, that's the part of the beauty of this technique. In fact, again, on his face now, I'm getting portrait blindness is coming on me rapidly. So I'm not going to do much, but before I leave, I want to let's start edging our way toward flesh tone. And of course, things like flesh tone impact a likeness. Sometimes you can have all the lines, quote unquote, in the right place, but it still doesn't look right because some subtle shading is impacting, diminishing likeness. So I'm just going to do a little bit of flesh tone here. What I see is this cheek over here is about like that, and I've got it tilted. So something's wrong. Either the whole bottom of his face needs to move to the left a little bit. That doesn't sound like much fun. Or the top of his head and his ear needs to move to the right. Good news, bad news. The top of his head needs to move to the right. So bear with me just a minute. And I don't mean the top, I mean his ear here. So I'm not going to erase that completely because then I'd have to I erased more than I wanted to actually. Because then I would have to redraw it from scratch, if you will. But if I leave it showing just a little bit, I can make corrections a little more easily. So again, my first guess, as far as correcting this angle right here, my first guess is that the ear was out a little bit too far. But that makes me a little nervous because that's not my usual mistake. My usual mistake is I bring the sides of the head in too close to the face, if you will. let me repeat something I said earlier. If you want to be a good portrait painter, and again, please understand, I am not putting myself in that category. I'm not good. I'm just so, but I'm practicing to try to get good. I want to get better, but I do know a thing or two about how to get better. And one of the answers is you have to do so many portraits that you know what your mistakes tend to be. You begin to learn after a while. Oh, you know what? So I just gave you one of mine. Especially in a 3/4 view, if a person's looking this way, I'll bring the ear too close, a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch or something, too close to the outside of the eye. So, as I said over here, that's an exception if I made it too far out. And it may still be that the whole mouth needs to go this way. I'm not convinced. It's a beautiful little mouth, beautiful little smile. Speaking of which, this is truly one of the things I love about doing portraits. I can honestly say the mouth needs to be open wider. I have never done a portrait in my life where, and let's say it takes me, an average of 4 hours. I mean, some take a lot longer than that, but including sketches and everything. Let's say an average of 4 hours. I've never done a portrait where I didn't, little by little by little, fall in love with the face. Just fall in love with the beauty, humanity, character of the face that I'm painting. And that is such I don't know what to call it, a holy impulse. That is such a good thing. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And I'm not talking about, of course, painting pretty people, especially in particular. I'm thinking about painting, not the ideal visage. A baby, of course, is like nothing more perfect than a baby's face. But I truly love the sensation, honestly, that's the best way to put it. I just love the sensation of falling in love with a human's face. And of course, I'm saying a whole lot of things there that tip into much bigger issues, much broader issues. I'm going to do a little bit of red inside his mouth, and then let's move on. I'm ready to. Oh no! I'll move on to his. What I mean is, I'll move on to his. Do a little bit in his clothing, and then let's move on to the next painting. So part of the secret of doing a bunch of portraits at the same time is don't spend too long. Don't wear yourself out on any one. Just work on it. I think an average 20 minutes maybe, and then move on. I'm not timing myself, so I have no idea if I'm anywhere near that 20-minute objective. You guys doing okay? Nobody's saying nothing. I'm assuming that means you're okay. What? People say, what? We're supposed to say something? What do you mean? No, you don't have to say anything. Just usually somebody is. All right, that shoulder's a little high. Let's just bring that down. I'll paint it out right there. While we're at it, I'm going to give you, you're watching my opinion my humble opinion about how to paint things that are white. And the answer is, in a word, don't paint it white. It's the short answer to that. And that's what most early journey painters, in fact, if they're painting a white thing, they reach, so to speak, they reach for the tube of white paint, and that's an erroneous impulse. Now, of course, I am using white here, but it's the point is it's a very, very dull, dirty, muddy white. It looks a lot whiter on this dark canvas than it actually is, but it's got all kinds of colors mixed. I'm just sort of using I'm using it to clean up my palette. I'm picking up all kinds of discarded colors down here. So how do you paint white things? Again, a little more detailed answer is layers and layers and layers. And you only use the lightest light, whatever is going to be white-ish, at the very end of the process. And even then, very rarely do you use pure out of the tube titanium white. Very rarely. Most would say never, but there are some times when you can, in my opinion, break that rule. So it's layers and layers and layers of different muddy colors, if you will. Decent way to put it. I just dipped my brush into some dioxazine violet. Why? Because my eye sees a hint of violet there in the photograph. Now I think his mouth might be open too wide, but I'm going to leave it for right now, I think, and come back to it later, again, with fresh eyes. I don't trust myself. Oh, there's a button right there. How about that? The boy is almost, his hand is almost playing with a button. Not quite, but very close to it. His thumb and forefinger are loosely arced around the button there. I've come to enjoy quite a bit painting clothing. I do a fair amount of it in my wedding painting, as you know. Groom in a tux, most typically, and a bride in a wedding dress. And I really have enjoyed developing an approach, especially to painting white clothing, as you can hear by my chat. I just dipped my brush in some ultramarine blue and have painted this little guy quite a bit of blue down here. The reason is the original photograph here was done in a studio with a pure white background, and the client that I'm doing this for, they specifically requested that I put them in a natural nature outdoor setting. So of course I'm going to have sun. I'm going to leave the face and the top of the baby, the top of the child, just like the photograph, but I'm going to have a sun-dappled shadow hitting the bottom half of the child's, because I'm going to set him in an environment, in a natural environment. All right, I'm tired of this painting. Good news is I can move right on to another one. And hopefully I will have very fresh eyes. Let's go back to Kim Coley, or as she's known around here, Tim Toley. The reason is she's a political person, run for office, just won a Republican primary here in North Carolina for county commissioner, I think. And my wife, good friend of my wife in particular. All right, time to sit down again. And last year when my wife was helping her with her campaign, we had a couple of grandchildren that couldn't say their K's, their hard C's. So her name became Tim Toley. Sorry, a little bit of grandchild cuteness there. I hope you're in the mood for some grandchild cuteness, because that's what you just got. Tim Toley. Okay, fresh eyes. Let's see what I see. This is not a very good photograph that I'm working from. It's good because it's an action shot of her giving a speech in front of a flag with her finger raised at a podium and so forth. That's good. It's good action. It's not a great shot of her face at all. Well, first of all, yay for fresh eyes. Her forehead is too short. It's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for when I say fresh eyes. What else? I mean, her mouth is just a complete mess right now, so I'm just sort of disregarding that for the moment. Let's zoom in here for you guys a little bit more. I'm not sure where to start. Well, let's just, again, sit back. How about the length of her chin? Ah, her nose is too low. Well, isn't that a fine howdy-do? There's something deceptive about the position of her face. I mentioned earlier that, again, Kim is a friend of ours. Hi, Kim. I hope you're watching. She is a lovely lady. That could be taken as code language for she has a good personality. Isn't that right? If you say she's a lovely lady. Unfortunately, she's really homely, but no, that's what. No, she is not. She is an attractive woman, is what I mean to say. And of course, even saying that in this climate, these days, you can get into trouble. I'm assuming Kim's not going to sue me. Randy, your wife is attractive. Anyway, she's an attractive woman. This photograph is a little bit of a challenge because it doesn't really do her justice. So I've got my work cut out for me. I want to try to make her look as good as she actually does look in real life, even though the photograph I'm working from doesn't do her very well. So that's what I mean when I said she's a lovely woman. I meant she's pretty, not that she has a good personality. She is pretty. Her personality is... Okay, y'all, I'm just saying this because I hope she's listening. And because She would know I'm kidding. uh, oh boy, that was pretty. Ooh, you know what? All of a sudden it kind of looks like her. Even though I just wiped out her nose completely. Yeah, these fingers, this hand is driving me crazy. Let's do something about that right away, just because it's just bothering me, that's all. I'll come back and work on that, of course, quite a bit later on, but it's just irritating me, so let's make a quick correction. All right, something I did in just the last few minutes suddenly made a likeness begin to pop out, even though I wiped out some of her features. I wiped out her nose completely. Isn't that strange? I removed her nose and she started to look more like herself. Okay. Let's try that. Okay, I'm going to grab a tool. Help me cheat a little bit. This thing right here, let's compare the placement of the middle of her nostril, middle of front tooth, edge of eyebrow. Wow, that doesn't line up very well. Let's try it this way. Middle of her nostril, bottom of earlobe. Whoops, I'm way off there. All right, so something is not right at all. That's what that tool is for. Just by the way, for what it's worth, made it myself, plexiglass, half-inch, so you can slap it right on the painting and pick it up without touching the painting. And it's a sharp edge, so it does minimal touching of the painting. It just has a number of very carefully, very fine lines. Almost doesn't matter where they are. The one in the middle is marked red. But those lines help me get it perfectly vertical. That's about all. Very simple tool. But I'm a little bit alarmed because clearly, okay, so let's get the nose higher. And let's get the ear lower. Oh yeah, wait. Let's compare the bottom of the ear. According to that, the ear should be down there. Looking for it. Right, here we go. Angle of the eyes, like that. Yep, that's accurate. The side of her face. Okay, underneath her eyebrow and her chin. Her cheek extends that far. Underneath her eyebrow and her chin, her cheek extends. Yeah, I got that just about right. Thank goodness I got something right. Here is a really helpful, maybe helpful tip for doing portraits. Um, Many times, what you think, you the artist, you look at your portrait and you think that this or that or this or that is wrong, is inaccurate, is in the wrong place, wrong shape, wrong something. Very often, your assessment is wrong. You think that one thing is the problem, the mistake, when actually it's something very different from that, but your mind is thinking it's this. Now, let me extend that out a little bit because this can really save you a lot of grief. When you ask your friends, most of them, unless they are artists, and most of your friends are not artists, I'm assuming, because most people are not artists. When you ask your friends, so what's wrong with this portrait? What do you think? I find typically people are more than happy to give you their opinion, and I think the accuracy of their assessment hovers somewhere around 7%. Most of the time, what they say is not really the problem. Great majority. So, and I mean, most of the time when we say that about our own stuff, we are mistaken ourselves, and we're the artist, and we're still mistaken. I'm going to do cheap. I'm going to do something crazy here for a minute. I'm going to pick up a black pencil. Just for the sheer variety, tactile variety, just for the sheer difference that this is a bad photograph. I literally can't see. There's a bunch of disappearing lines over here that are not supposed to disappear, but because of the quality of the photograph, they just literally disappear. So I can't see like where the edge of the nose is over here. There's no line whatsoever. Several years ago, 2012 it was actually, I made a New Year's resolution in, I don't know if it was January 1st, but it was very close to January 1st. I said, all right, I'm tired of being intimidated by portraiture. I've been intimidated at portraits my whole life. I'm going to put a stop to this. And so I determined to try to do one portrait every day for a year, one sketch or painting or whatever. Now, it turns out I failed. I didn't make it. Most of my portraits were done sort of last thing at night in the evening after all the work was done and I was crashing on a couch. I had a notebook there on the coffee table or whatever, and I would just pick it up and copy, something from somewhere, somebody's face, usually in 20 or 30 minutes. I ended up doing, I forget now, 280 perhaps. In other words, I didn't make my goal of one a day, but by golly, I did a lot of portraits that year. Mostly sketches. And by the way, can I say, is it true? Yeah, 100% no cheating. Just pure, because it was just an exercise. Just looking and copying. And there's more to this story. It was kind of fun. I had a blog. I think it's still up. I guess it's still out in the in the Ethernet somewhere. I am not having a good time here, by the way. I am not. Not doing a good job. Anyway, it was called oneportraiteveryday.com. I imagine it's still there. I wonder if I'm paying for that thing. I shouldn't be. I'd like to cancel it. Anyway, you can look it up, see if it's still there. One portrait every day. Everything shorter than that was already taken. But here's the fun part. I invited people to help me, to join me in this adventure. And I invited them, so I posted a sketch almost every day, 3 out of 4 days, or 4 out of 5 days, or something like that. You do the math, 5 out of 6 days, I don't remember. And but as you can imagine, so this is 8 years ago, it's been a while, but I was also intent on doing some teaching, through this. And oh, her mouth is open too wide. That's what I've got going on. Well, hallelujah. That's an easy fix. Let's close her mouth somewhat. I'll continue to talk because this could be instructive for any of you who are either aspiring or struggling portrait painters. I laid down some ground rules on this blog page, saying here's what you may and here's what you may not say about my portrait sketch. You may not say things like, you may not make references to anatomy like his nose is too big or cheek needs to be rounder. Let me give you a few more. This and by the way, this is the kind of talk, if you're an artist, you need to banish all this kind of verbiage from your vocabulary if you want to be a portrait painter. You do not say things, even internally, even inside your mind, you do not say things like, well, the cheek needs to be more rounded, or fuller, there's a good word, needs to be fuller, or and you name it. You start with by saying a feature, ear, eye, nose, mouth, chin, cheek, forehead, whatever, and then you follow it up with an analogy needs to be bigger, rounder, fuller, flatter, sharper, dimmer, shape words. All of that, not only is all of that, if you're trying to be a portrait painter, so here I'm in teaching mode here at the moment. It not only is such verbiage worthless, oh no, it's way worse than that. Such verbiage is actually damaging to your ability to accurately create, learn how to do portraits. What I mean by that, let me give you the correct terminology now. Here's the correct terminology. It could be something like, do you see this line right here? Do you see this dot? You see this point? In other words, you make some reference, not to an anatomy, ear, eye, nose, mouth, chin, head. You say, see this line, this curve, this mark right here? It needs to go left, right, or up or down. It needs to go up to right. You don't say it needs to be fuller, fatter, squishier, smoosh, fatter, anything like that. No shapy words. No references to the bulbous nature of the physical body, because this is not a bulbous surface. This is if you're a sculpture, then it would be valid, but this is a perfectly flat surface. So you say, do you see that point right there? It needs to move left, right, up or down, or some variation thereof. That's all you can say. And if you want to be a good painter of portraits, that is what you learn to limit your internal dialogue to. You don't say, the eye looks a little funny. Yeah, well, thank you for that. That is absolutely worthless. We know the eye looks a little funny. The question is, which mark needs to move in which direction? Now, of course, along with it, you can say maybe it's lighter or darker, but even that is pretty No, it's mostly marks need to move left, right, or up or down. That is the so that's what I insisted, and it was great fun. I had one person in particular, Stella, my dear, who really joined me in this, and we had to still see each other fairly occasionally, and developed quite the bond in 2012 because she helped me more than anybody else. She was very good. She was Chinese, by the way. And she was very, very good at seeing and saying, this mark needs to move that way. Now you can make references to anatomy so the person knows what you're talking about. You say the ear, okay, the outer edge needs to move. You know, you can make reference to it, but you don't. That's not your primary. What's the word? Not your primary terminology. Primary terminology is marks, and they go north, south, east, or west, essentially. So there you go. If you want to get better, that's the terminology that goes on inside your head. You throw out, and we, of course, non-artists, they don't know that, so they'll say goofy and essentially worthless things. When a non-artist gives you criticism, you listen to it because they may in fact be seeing something accurate, but their terminology is almost certainly worthless because they will say things like, you know, what I just described. And then you need to carefully interpolate, if I can use that fancy word. You need to carefully interpret what it is you think they're trying to say. And I am not very happy with this face at the moment. There are a number of things going wrong with it. Anybody telling me what the right thing is? Yeah, David's giving me some figures. Okay, let's go back. David says the head's not long enough. That may well be true. Her mouth is slanted more. You're right, Radina. Most people, the great majority of people, only a trained, if you will, someone who's being visually trained, training themselves, will know what to say. Correct. And of course we do not expect non-artists to know that. That's why it usually doesn't help much. Anyway, you have to interpret what they're saying. Okay, David is saying your head is longer. Ooh, I think you're right. And what else did you say? Mouth is slanted. Yeah. Okay, I don't think it'll do me much good to fix her mouth at the moment if it's the... Oh, indeed. There we go. Okay, let's start figuring out where I know where it is. I know where it is. Of course, her nose is way too pronounced. I'm just going to fuzz it out a little bit. I've got her mouth too high. So here we go. Let's just do her mouth there. That is to say, get rid of it. Go back to using a pencil just for a minute. Ooh, suddenly that looks a little better. This time, Radina, I got rid of her mouth and captured a better likeness. That's pretty funny. A little while ago, I eliminated her nose, and it looked more like her. Now I eliminated her mouth. But it's a temporary state. I promise. I can't leave her without a mouth or a nose. my little, there we go. Look, wasn't that sweet? Look at, I actually made them a little bit too big, you know, make them smaller, but just no. I moved her mouth down almost 1/8 of an inch, which is quite a bit. That would suggest to me that I'm going to draw an outline, which is a terrible thing to do unless it's a functional temporary help, which it is in this case, right? We don't have outlines in nature, in real, generally speaking. But sometimes they can help us get where we need to go. Nope, it's too much. Too much of a good thing, if you will. Okay, we are getting closer. Me with all your help is getting closer. David, that's like me. Yeah, that's an accurate assessment. David says he averages 70% on his recommendations. Touche. I was saying earlier, I think I average about, when I do portraits without cheating, I average about 40%. About 40% of the time, which means of the 5 portraits I'm doing here, almost 2 of them should be pretty good. Not counting the dog, that's cheating. Okay, definitely have more of a likeness, but it may be here. There's a possibility now, however, that I'm not going to achieve. I'm not going to see a likeness emerging because of the lack of values. So let's take just a minute, and again, I'm just about worn out on this, on Kim already, and I need to move on to something else. But before I do, let's come in here and do some of these, the light side of her face. Is kind of, there is some dramatic light on her face that is fun. I just have to, it's the photograph is not very good on the shady side. There's just a lot of stuff that I can't see over there. So I feel like I've just about got this portrait far enough along that I can lay it aside now for an hour and a bit while I work on 4 other portraits. Then when I come back to this one, again, I'll be seeing it with considerably fresher eyes, and I'll probably instantly see things that I can't see right now. So that's my story. I definitely looks more like Kim than it did a little while ago. So I'm sure there's still issues. I'm not even going to worry terribly about what those issues are at the moment. Go Kim, giving a speech there. She is a firecracker. We like her. Yeah, that's. I'm feeling a little happier. I can breathe a little bit easier. She is beginning to look like herself. And again, the nice thing is I'm not pressure. I don't feel the pressure like I have to get her perfect all at once. I can leave it, come back in a little while, and again, counting on the fact that I'll have fresher eyes. I'll be able to see things that I can't see even right now. But in the meantime, let's get some of the other stuff done, like hair. She looks like a blonde now, doesn't she? Which she is. She's most certainly a blonde. I guess I'll do, yeah, hang on. I'm ready to move on, but let's go ahead and start some of the flaggy stuff. Which clearly, this is part of the reason she sent me this. Great, it's a great photograph compositionally, not great of her face, but very good of the rest of her. Let's I have painted a lot of flags, American flags, in my career. Very few Canadian flags, David. What's wrong with that? I was born in Canada, you know. I'm a Canuck from way back. 66 years back. Anyway, I've drawn a lot of American flags and have developed a bit of a routine, a formula that I'm quite happy with for painting the stripes, stars and stripes. So it applies to painting any fabric with stripes on it. I won't go over, I might do that later when we come back. I might talk about my formula for painting American flag. In a word, how do you paint American flag? This won't surprise any of my regulars. The answer is in layers. Layers and layers and layers. That's, in my opinion, the best way to paint an American flag. In layers. Standing in front of some office building. I want to indicate that very, in a very abstract manner, of course. Oops, I just went off the screen a little bit there, didn't I? All right. There's something blue right there. Oh, and there's something red. Now all these brushes are dirty. She's wearing a red scarf or something right here. All right. That looks good enough to pause on, right? In fact, this broadcast is getting ridiculously long. So I should probably pause there as well. Thank you. David. The humble. David, are you on both YouTube and Facebook at the same time? How can that be? Barbara, I appreciate your comment. I'm not going to read it out loud, of course, but I do appreciate it. Thank you. And you may be correct. Probably are. Thank you. So, Yahoo. I'll be happy to come back to that in a while. And now, what is the last? It's the Jessica the Bride. I'll just show you the photograph here, and then I'll stop broadcasting. I need to work. My goodness, time does fly when you're painting. Here's the photograph, and here's her face. I'm not perfect, but I'm getting to the point now with this where I'm ready to employ some kind of cheat. I got the big side now. Some kind of cheat mechanism to help me really refine. I'll tell you what, in this case, since there's a computer and a printer right behind me, one of the cheat methods would simply be that I measure this very carefully and then print it out on paper exactly the size, and then I can cut it out, put it right here, and make one-to-one correlation, maybe even two copies of it, one above and one below. Does that make sense? So I can line things up this way and that'd be one thing. Another would be, I don't know if I can still do this, but in the olden days I used to be able to print on acetate. Boy, wouldn't that be a trick. So I could actually print on clear plastic and place it right over there, find out where I'm marked. Anyway, there are a number of things I can do like that. And you know, I'm close. It's like I can tell who that's supposed to be. I can tell it's supposed to be her, but something's not quite exactly right. I think, like I look at it now, I think her eyes might be too close together. I need to move them apart slightly. Fiddly little stuff like that. All right, but I'll do that without your company. Thanks so much for your good company today. I appreciate it very much. You new Facebook friends, good to have you jumping on with me. And again, if you want me to do a portrait of you for a measly $350, again, this size, this is more expensive, and it's $350 per person, per character. See, I won't do 2 or 3 or 4 people for $350. All right, but it's a good way for us all to stay quarantined and sane. Lord bless you all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.